Blakey and Tux, they're talking Cardiff City and some other stuff. Blakey and Tux, Dolly asked the questions on Blakey's boot room. Will always be blue.
Good afternoon. Welcome once again to Blakey's Boot Room here on Wales Online. Nathan and Steve in the studio. Nathan, thanks for that.
Not for long. We have to take him off now. It's not well.
Here to discuss all the latest Cardiff City issues, of course, on the back of first win of the season. That's 4 unbeaten, now up to 7th in the league. Can't not be positive, can you?
Tactical genius, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought. I tell you what it was that I thought the Wolves game. It was the game I enjoyed the most.
The second half was brilliant.
Yeah, the second half in particular. But it was the best, most enjoyable game to watch for a while, and arguably, I'd say particularly at home, Cardiff's best they've played under Russell Slade. You know, I think all the big build-up for Wolves people have been having. I mean, I don't know if that was an off day. But as you say, I don't think they offered very much. But that's not to kind of deride what Cardiff did. You beat what's in front of you, and they well and truly.
Well, they passed it. I'd say they had more control than Cardiff in the first half. I think Wolves, I could see what they were trying to do, but without any sort of end product. They were passing the ball well, trying to maintain possession and trying to create and build pressure on Cardiff. And Cardiff, as we've said, are playing this will sit off rather than press high game. And it looked as if, Cardiff were playing into Wolves' hands. But second half, different story.
Let's talk about the man of the moment then. Kenwyne Jones obviously scored the goal, back in the team, fully fit now, we think.
Yeah. Oh, well, obviously turned his ankle late on, so we're hopeful that's not too good. I mean, we've spoken about it on here. I think everybody all over South Wales has been talking about it. He's head and shoulders the best striker at the club. He's one of the best strikers in the Championship, full stop. And when you have him there, when he's fit...
No? Sorry,
Mrs. Doe.
Do you want to get that while we're on? No?
We'll carry on with the show. We can do it. I'll question him.
You sure you don't want to get that?
No.
Okay.
You're fine, is he? All right, okay. That's a lack of professionalism. That's a breach of studio etiquette, having your mobile on.
Tony over there.
Hang on. What interesting thing was I saying?
You were talking about Kenwyne Jones.
Well, I was saying he's one of the best strikers in the show. If he's fit, I mean, I know obviously he's had this calf strain. He missed a lot of pre-season as well, away with Trinidad and Tobago. When he's fit, you stick him up top there. I mean, that goal, it was classic Kenwyne Jones. I mean, it was a nice chip in from Fabio, wasn't it?
Well seen, yeah, because I think most people were hoping he'd play it wide, and Fabio's actually pointed it out. Him and Kenwyne have obviously locked eyes, put it in that little space for you.
Chipped it up lovely, and I mean, Kenwyne did exactly what he did. I mean, the defending one. I mean, I'm sure that there was a bit of a post-mortem from the keeper and the two centre-halves, but you just had that feeling when it was in the air and he was going to.
It's playing to your team's strengths, and your players knowing one another and playing to their strengths.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like we were chatting yesterday, and you mentioned your column. I thought as well, he just brought that. That hold-up play.
He's like the granddaddy. He's like, he's the big man. He's the one that other teams are going to be thinking. There's no way Richard Stearman is thinking, I'm going to beat up Kenwyne today. Richard Stearman would be thinking, oh man, Kenwyne's playing. You know what I mean? Let's just sit off him. Let's just not try and upset him too much.
Hang on, you mean he's not saying Alex Ravel is playing with a
well, it's it's not a slight on Alex at all. Do you know what I mean? That's what we're not saying.
No.
Or Alex is this or Alex is that. Listen, Kenwyne's just a better player than Alex. He's played at a far higher level. He's an international, and he's feared. In the Premier League, he was feared. Alex has never been to the Premier League. If Alex gets to the Premier League and scores goals like Kenwyne does, he can afford then to drop down to the Championship and be really feared in the Championship. But until that happens, we're not saying, oh, he's great, he's rubbish, or anything like that. Kenwyn's just, we're talking about Kenwyn. You know, he is a quality striker.
And I thought it was, I mean, to bring it up, I thought it was interesting in your column today. You saying you're not. I mean, you weren't talking about maybe right now because of the injuries, but you're saying maybe he's not been appreciated enough.
Let me come in there with a couple of comments. Anyway.
Yeah, no, you guys bullet tooth.
A couple of comments on one from.
He was worried I was taking his job then. My question.
One from Rob Pugh says,
right,
Nathan, you say that Kenwyn has been treated badly. I thought he had a calf injury at the start of the season, or is there another reason why he hasn't figured so far, or are you referring to last season's shenanigans? By the way, he was unplayable on Saturday. He says,
who's that from?
From Rob.
Rob's on my. Rob knows it. Yeah, exactly.
Rob's with Churchy then says, Blakey, despite your comments in your column, Kenwyn has not been fit enough to start a game due to a lack of match fitness and missing out on the majority of pre-season, as has been acknowledged repeatedly by Russell Slade. It is.
I think. Who was the second person?
Churchy.
Listen to the first person's comment, because I'm referring to since he's been here. I don't think anyone at the club has ever referred to Kenwyn as the #1 striker. And I think since he's been here, I think last season, yeah, we were desperate for points to get out of a relegation battle. We were then desperate for points to try and push on into a playoff situation. And our best striker's out on loan. So
they would argue they sent him out on loan when the season was done and dusted.
Well, again, it always comes down to Kenwyn.
Yeah, but then you're building for next season. You know, if that's the case, he leaves and you rebuild with your new squad and your new system. What I'm saying is, he seems to be on the periphery all the time. He's not seen as the #1. Let's not forget where Joe Mason was 6-7 months ago. Do you understand what I mean? So, you know, people can say, oh, he's injured. I'm not talking about here, right now. I'm talking holistically. I don't think Kenwyn has been ever or the #9. And I think if you want a goal scorer, a striker to perform at his best, like anybody, whether you're a plumber or you work in finance, whatever, if your boss puts his arm around you and really looks after you, you perform to the best of your ability, week in, week out.
I think that's particularly true. I mean, you'll know this better than me. Our goal scorer, our strikers, they need that. I mean, I was talking to Doley earlier, and I don't want to be all, you know, over the top, but I mean, you know, someone like Drogba in his pomp at Chelsea. You're the man. You're the guy. You're the king. Right? You score the goals. What do you want? You want this, you want that. I'm not saying Kenwyn's on that kind of level, but I'm saying within a Cardiff context, he
can lead that.
Yeah,
right. He is the man that they will look to as.
Here you go, bang. You want whose replica shirt do kids want on their backs? They want a Kenwyn Jones shirt because he's the guy, you know, and that's how he should be treated. Now he's fit, perhaps that's how he will be treated, unless he leaves, which is another calamitous question.
This from Steve then, another one who's read your column. Read your article today, Nathan. I don't think it's as simple as just playing Kenwyn every game. We've tried that in the past and he goes off the boil, looks lethargic and uninterested. I think Russell deserves a lot of credit for his management of KJ. He's getting the best out of him by making him fight for his place and making him hungry to perform.
Well, that's a contradiction, because then you're saying in the last person said he's been injured. So you can get the best out of someone who's injured. He's not getting the best out of him. He's injured. He's sat on the bench, or he's sat in a treatment room.
I tell you what.
So which one is it?
I tell you what as well.
Whoa. We've had a little contradiction there. So which one is it?
Perhaps he's talking about last season as well, I don't know.
Do you understand what I'm saying, John?
I do, yeah. He goes on there, he says, you watch, if he played every game, you'd soon have fans asking for him to be dropped. I agree he's class and very important to us. Overall, he's definitely our best striker. But the key is, how do you get the best out of him consistently? And I think that's by keeping him hungry, bringing him off the bench sometimes, and starting him at others. But you don't just start him for the sake of it. We must keep him, I agree. I'm a big fan of his.
Well, one thing I will say...
I understand what he's saying, but I'm saying, as a striker, you want to play. Yeah? And if Kenwyn's getting to the point where you're picking up injuries and what have you, or you're playing injured, even more reason to really look after him and wrap him up and get him through games and get him through the season. But we're at the start of the season. Okay, if he's been injured for pre-season, then you mollycoddle him a bit and get him into shape to get him where he starts the game on Saturday. But now, if he's injured again, you're gonna have to look after him. You know, make sure his training program is right, correct, so he stays fit, so he comes back, he's in good shape, and what have you. I don't think that's been the case at Cardiff. It's been a bit of a, you know, people can have their opinion one way or the other on Kenwyn, yeah. But I think over the course, if you look at Kenwyn and the squad at large, it has been a bit of a mix-up over the last year or two. It's never been a consistency.
And one thing you've got to say of what that chap was saying there, crikey, how many other players have gone off the boil under Slade and he's persisted
under any manager?
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's difficult to say.
There's plenty you've been looking at there.
40-odd games to
So
play
why
them all.
should Kenwyn be any different if he doesn't score for 4 games or whatever? Or he's off the boil. He's been playing. I mean, you could, crikey, I don't want to name names. You can look at Peter Whittingham and say he's been off the boil for flaming months. I mean, he was better against Wolves, but you could say that. But he's the first name on the team sheet all the time. So I don't see why Kenwyn should be any different. Why should he? Or he has to be pulled. He's better. You know, he goes off the boil. A lot of them do, but they don't seem to be in and out of the side.
Okay, let's go back to Churchy, who sort of had a bit of a go. He was having a go at Tucker now.
I haven't even said anything.
Go on, Churchy.
Hey, if it's my hair, I'm out of here.
No. This, I mean, we headlined this show and sort of, you know, is Russell Slade proving the critics wrong? And you know, we'll come on to that now and in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had a bit of a pop at the critics after the game and said most people thought he'd be down the road, I think, by now, didn't he? But Churchy says, Tucker, an incredibly unfair article you wrote this morning. How about some positivity for a manager who has built a strong team spirit, improved the style of play, and not only led us to an unbeaten start to the season, but only 4 defeats since February. This despite having no money to spend and needing to shave £12 million off the wage bill. If his name was Rossellio Sladino, he'd be the best thing since sliced bread.
I wouldn't be able to take him seriously if he was Rossellio Sladino.
No wonder some of his ex-players like Curtis Woodhouse and many others claim he is the best manager they've ever worked with. You and the majority of other Cardiff fans need to give the guy a chance.
Right, okay. I've got no problem with that. But let's say it. He's had his critics from the very start. That's fine. He was at Yeovil. He was at the. He came with baggage anyway. He had a lot to prove. I don't care about the back end of last season. I don't think he proved that at all. I think when the end of last season came, what was that, 11 play finish, and the performances, I know they'd been better away from home, but they were still poor at home. I don't think he'd done anything to prove his critics wrong. So I take it to this season right now, okay, I agree. I've said it. I think they look better. I was in Holland with them, and I wrote an article there where I said I was at the hotel.
You told me. You rang me.
You could tell. We spoke from Holland.
Yeah.
You put the phone down. No, you put the phone. No, it's not. It's not nothing like that. But
it is.
It is really. We won't go into it. We were. And I said, there's a buzz here. Everyone you spoke to, people are together. Certain people have gone. I think it's been a vast improvement. The thing that got me, why I wrote that article today, you know, he's coming out there and he's saying, and he's saying,
be careful.
You guys, thought I'd be down the road. But all I was saying in that article was like, whoa, hold on a minute, mate. You could still be down the road in 4 or 5 games. You lose them. Because he hasn't built up any great deal of goodwill here. It's not like he's untouchable. Those critics, okay, they may have gone quiet this week. They're happy. They're saying, well, what a better performance. Let's hope the thing. They haven't gone away. And I just thought it was a slightly strange, you know, look at me now. You've won a game. You're not top of the table, but like, you know, flying away with 6 points ahead.
Is that not a sign of a man who's been put under immense pressure since he arrived? And
that is exactly what I said in there. I said it was a clear sign that for all his being cool and I don't know if he's been that cool, but for all that, the first chance he got to answer the people back, he took it. And I'm just saying, fair enough, he earned it. You know, he made a couple of changes where they were some of them were enforced. With Kenwyn, it was his choice. He got the reward. Fair enough, but I'm just saying.
I would say,
just hold your horses a second.
I can completely understand why and what Russell is saying, but you know, probably most of us would be the same. But from the outside looking in, my advice would be just focus on the job at hand. You're going to get critics, yeah, no matter what you say. Tux was saying he'd be down the road. No, I don't think this early. But I was saying, I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I think that the earliest, if things went wrong this season, would be January. That was my opinion. If things went wrong this season, the earliest he would be out of a job would be January. So, you know, different people say different things, different opinions. You're not going to satisfy everybody. So, you know, from a player who had plenty of critics, there's no point trying to satisfy them and prove them wrong. And what you do, you prove them wrong by the results you gain, or by the goals you score, or by the wins you accumulate. I wouldn't bother trying to, after each game or after each month, trying to use that to say then against your critics. Mate, even when you win, you know, Pellegrini finished second last year after winning the title before. Boom, they're on him. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast. If I'm advising a manager, my advice would be you can't look at that and try and fight it. You've got 20,000 fans with probably 10,000 different opinions. Then you've got the press, 10, 20 people in the press, they'll all have different opinions. What are you going to do? Go through each one of them trying to say, look, see, told you, or you was wrong about this. Mate, don't worry about it. It's like when you step onto the field of play, all that around you has got to be blocked out. Why? Because it can affect how you play. The noise can give you more adrenaline, yeah, but it can't bend the football in the top corner for you. It can't pick out the 60-yard pass. It can't block a tackle that someone's gonna, you know, put one in the back of your net. So you gotta just focus on the job at hand. That would be my advice. But you know, I can understand he's been under immense pressure for a long time. But like I said, it's the nature of the beast.
They're all under pressure.
They are.
They are under pressure.
A bit of counterbalance to some of the comments we just had. Bluebirds saying in answer to the question, has he silenced his critics? Of course he hasn't after one game. He was forced into playing that team and that tactic. He says, I agree with Blakey, it's shameful how Cameron Jones has been treated in recent times, and other class players who have been left rotting on the bench or sent out on loan. So,
and let me just say, holistically, the club, for me, I know that they watch this show, even though they don't like to admit it, right? They watch this show, and like I've said to you before, they think that like we cause trouble. Yet no trouble ever comes from it. We say things on here, and I'm not saying they happen because we've said them, but it's an opinion, that's a good opinion, that is there to help. It's critical analysis, yeah? It's as simple as that. So looking at the team and how it's been performing, that, like someone's just said there, those changes that had to happen, yeah, because of whatever, people are now not, there's no point now saying at the club, oh, well, this is perfect, that's perfect. There's a lot of things that need to happen. Your development of your players in the first team. If you're not going to spend money, if Russell hasn't got money to spend, right, and he's got to cut the wage bill, you sell Marshall or you don't sell Marshall, whatever, but if you get that money and it's 5 million quid, you're not going to do a lot with 5 million quid, yeah? So for me, Russell's in a predicament. Do I develop those and come through, which have been in the system since they were 10 years old, some of them, right? Or do I go out and pick from the lower leagues? For me, you might mix and match a bit of both, but you've got a lot of players, a lot of very talented players who go into Cardiff at 9, 10 years old, go all the way up to 18, 19, 20, and then just getting released or not getting the full development. Now, before you could understand because the money was being ploughed in. Now the money's being taken out. And us as fans, we got to look at the situation. I think most fans will look at the situation and understand it. You got to be patient, yeah. But you're going to develop from within. Not everyone. You're still going to buy your players, but your squad now, your nucleus, is going to be coming from your own academy. That's the whole point of the academy and the under-21 system. But over the last 2 or 3 years, we've perhaps seen 2 or 3 players come out.
Well, I mean, one of those
best
was spent in the Premier League, though, so you're not going to For a start, you're not going to blood any youngsters in the Premier League, are you, on the Premier League season?
Yeah, of course you do, if they're good
with
enough.
With a billionaire backer.
Yeah, you know, well, Chelsea do. They won the league last year. They bled 3-4 players at the end of the season. Yeah. Oh well. Do you know what I mean, Tux? Yeah. Once you were down, then.
Well, yeah.
Then you believe them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It might be then start of the season, cup games. You chuck them in and save them.
If the lads are not there to be blooded, though, you can't blood them.
Bled,
can you?
but they
or blooded.
blood, cleat.
We're on the edge of swearing now.
What I'm saying is, though, I'll use the example we used a week ago. Josh Orth, picked up by Ipswich Town, Mick McCarthy. So they clearly are players within that structure who are good enough. I find it nigh impossible to have that size of academy and 21 structure and say you've not got any talent in there, because that's basically what we're saying. From 16 to 21, you might have 40 players, you're paying them all, none of them are good enough for Premiership, Championship football. I don't think that's possible, is it? Then you've got to look at your whole scouting, selection, coaching, everything throughout the academy, junior academies. You'd have to look at your whole structure. But that's what I think Cardiff need to do, is restructure right from the age of 10 up. What's their philosophy? Implement it right down all the way to 10 years old, right the way up then, 14, 15, 16, 18, 20. Because, you know, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, their academy and their structure was so well thought of. But I'll tell you now, I'm not saying this to chuck bombs or anything like that. I think it's well documented, and if you go out amongst the general public or people who've had their kids in the academies, it's not what it was.
I don't think Slade
which doesn't make sense.
Totally enamoured by the academy. Well,
it's not his doing.
No,
is
that's
it?
what I mean.
That's
I don't think he's completely happy. I mean, they brought somebody in.
But can I just say the difficulty for Russell is then trusting the opinion of those in the academy in the 21s and looking at the players and saying, well, yeah, I trust that 18-year-old kid in my first team, because he already knows if I put him in and he has a shocker, people are going to be looking at me going, you can't judge a player, you can't see a player. And he's already on the back foot. Do you know what I mean? So I understand his dilemma, but I would say, do you know what, Russ? Throw the shackles off and just go for it.
See what you can do.
Just go for it.
Okay.
Because fans would appreciate it. We want to see, and I'm not saying you put people in there because they're from Cardiff or they're from the Rhondda or they're from Merthyr. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying homegrown talent, there's got to be some bled in that first team, surely.
Yeah, I'm sure most fans would like to see that, absolutely. Let's talk about another player then who probably impressed more than Ken Wynne-Jones on Saturday, Fabio. I think man of the match, lots of people raving about him. Everyone likes Fabio.
Everyone does, yeah.
You do.
He's busy, mate.
Anthony, you're saying Fabio was the catalyst behind the victory on Saturday. He surely cannot be dropped now for Scott Malone. Should Peltier therefore be dropped and Fabio come in there? What do you think about that?
I'm not sure about Fabio on the right for a start. I don't think that's his best position.
Sure. But we said last season, Fabio sets the tone of your team. He sets the tempo. He does. I don't know how he does it from left back, but he does. He's got that busy running style. You know, he doesn't, like there was a couple of times on Saturday where the winger's trying to get away from him and he just, like a Jack Russell, he just constantly biting at them. So for me, Tux and I had like the boxing gloves on yesterday on this one. It's difficult to say.
You make it sound like we're always arguing. We're not always arguing.
It's difficult like a married couple. it's difficult to say.
I want a divorce.
It's difficult to say, you know, whether... Because last week Malone was, you know,
it's the old classic nice headache in a way, isn't it? It's the old, cliche, isn't it?
Look what he done to me. Look what he done to me.
I hung you up, man. I hung you up to try.
Do you think it will give him that much of a headache? Because last season it was quite clear he didn't trust Fabio away from home.
I think he doesn't. I mean, like he's not alone in this. Russell said, is he? He doesn't trust Fabio defensively, and I mean that's been a thing that a lot for a defender, for a apparent left back, that's what I think. What I think is a bit different this season is Raul's. I think they
solid in front of him.
The
But he's not a
presence
winger,
of Raul,
so he's not going to get
no, exactly.
too high up the pitch.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly. I mean,
understand
and
what
Raul's, you know, he doesn't like playing there, but he can play at left back himself, so he's comfortable dropping back. And I think having Joe there gives him a bit more cover, and therefore makes him a much more dangerous player to have on. So that's interesting. But I mean, to counter that argument, I'm sure there's as many opinions. You know, again, like we said, so many people this season, Scott Malone's done nothing wrong, has he? I mean, he had that glorious screamer at QPR. He's looked good. He's growing in confidence after last season, where again there were question marks. I think he's answered a lot of his critics. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? You know, I mean, you know, pay your money.
That's why the manager gets paid.
What do the Great British boot room public think of it? Let us know. Would you put? I mean, some guy. I don't want to lead things on, but Amiobi as well is another player.
Yeah. Okay. So let me, in my opinion, right, humble opinion, Fabio.
There's nothing humble about your opinion.
Fabio with Raul in front of him is far safer than Fabio with Amiobi in front of him, because Raul's and Amiobi's game is down to them, not so much down to whether you question Fabio's defensive qualities or not. Up to you. But it's down to the player you got in front of you. Yeah. So when I played with, because I played left side, so I know this position very well. When I played with Damon Searle, all right, Surley was one of the best defenders and great going forward. So Damon and he was able to say to me, rather than play along your 4, you can play 10 yards ahead, Nate. You can play higher up. So if their right back gets it, you're quicker onto him and you win it and you're away. Rather than, Nathan, I need you to help me with this winger because I can't match him for pace. So I'm going to need you to cover me and what have you. No, because Damon was such a good defender, had such good dancing feet, had a great body sway on him, and was quick. So he made it so difficult for a winger to beat. It was like, leave you one-on-one. But that is the story of today's game. At the top, you've got to be able to defend one-on-one. You hear it all the time. You know, you see John Terry now under pressure because they're saying, oh, one-on-one, he's going to get exposed. If you can't look after yourself one-on-one as a fullback, in today's modern game, you're going to struggle. Because the holding midfielder now is usually central. Yeah. Very rarely you're going to get a left-sided midfielder who's not a winger, attack-minded then. So even if he plays with 1 holding and 2 in front, that number 8, that midfielder is usually an up, get goals, support the striker, blah blah blah. So to have a Raul in front of Fabio, you know, it just solidifies it. It makes it a solid platform that can go forward, because even when Fabio's overlapping to go forward, Raul's not going to be overlapping too often. He's just going to sit and hold that position.
Well, where does I mean, okay,
where does Amiobi play then? Exactly.
Can you play Amiobi and Kenwyne Jones up front together? Just an idea. I mean, I thought
as a 2.
Well, I mean, maybe just one
deeper.
Yeah, one deeper. Yeah, because I mean, Amiobi yesterday when he came on, I know Wolves were tiring and were pushing on, desperate to get back. He was, somebody used the word unplayable on Kenwyne Jones. Amiobi was absolutely, could not be controlled. I mean, I could have passed to him. All it took was a little knock over the top into a bit of space, and
I think Tux, what you're saying is what most fans are seeing, and why they're saying about selection for Russell Slade. He's got a massive headache, great massive headache though. It's great to have, but now we're now posing questions. Well, you'll have to go to a back 3 to get another midfielder in, or to get another forward player in to be more attacking. You utilise your strengths. The game is about scoring goals and winning. And if you do that more than your peers, you win the league or you get into the playoffs or wherever. So, the other hand, then they say you build from the back, a defensive structure. We got enough players to have, in my opinion, through pre-season and now, we should have had three different systems locked down of how to play. Yeah, 3 different systems. One with a back 4, one with a back 3, midfield 5, what have you. Yeah, so we've got the players to mix and match and move different systems, but that's work on a training ground. That's for Charles and Slade to be able to say, right, against Wolves, we're going to go with back 3 and a midfield 5 with 1 up front, or back 4, 3 and 3. Yeah, attack minded. Away from home at Wolves, you might go with a 4 and a 5 and a 1. Yeah, and just get Amiobi and say Pilkington on noon, joining up with the big man Kenwyne Jones.
Is there a lack of imagination there?
Well, there shouldn't be, because it's all there for you. You know, the bits of the jigsaw is all there. It's just with the jigsaw puzzle, you can make 3 different pictures, 4 different pictures with the players you've got at your disposal. It's as simple as that, you know, and that is the modern game. The modern game isn't saying, well, we're going 4-4-2, 4-4-2, 4-4-2. I think someone on Match of the Day too alluded to it yesterday about Burnley and Sean Dyche. It was Big Sam, yeah? Now, you know, he's been there, got the T-shirt and everything, and he said, I don't think you can go that way anymore and just play 4-4-2. You've got to adapt your system to each game you're playing. Now, if you haven't got the players, then you say, okay, we're going to have to find a formula, maybe 2 different formulas, home and away. But if you've got the players to adapt, then as long as you're working on the training ground, it's not like when I was younger, you play 4-4-2, done. That was it. People used to go, oh, we'll play with wing backs, and your wingers or your wing backs would go, your right back or your left back would go, I can't play there, I've never played as a wing back, I'm out of position, I don't know what I'm doing. But now, so I'm saying that's where your philosophy kicks in. 10, 11, 12, these kids have learned at 13, 14 to play in a back 3 as a wing back, as full backs. Your wingers have learned to play high up in a 3, tucked in and a diamond, 4-4-2, flat 4. They've learned this is your philosophy throughout the club. Do you understand what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
So it's all so relative to the end goal. Yeah, and that's why I harp on about philosophy being implemented at Cardiff City. Why it's so important.
Okay.
That's my little rant over here.
Thank you. What do you mean, your little rant? That was like the 3rd one already.
In terms of the team selection, Slade will stick with the same. Amiobi will be on the bench again. There's no suggestion he won't be on the bench, particularly when they go to Forest.
No.
And while results are going his way, what he's doing is working. So he seems to me like the type of guy who will very much just stick with that exact same team, which he would have picked identical teams if he could have probably.
The danger is you get to the end of the season and you miss out on the playoffs, and you look back at the start of the season and you look at results where if you had been a bit more offensive, yeah, because even Wolves, I thought Wolves were going to be, I looked at them and thought, wow, I thought you had a bit more about you. I haven't seen anyone in the league so far.
Or whatever,
yeah,
it's just absolutely, yeah, just in.
I haven't seen anyone so far this season who I think.
Pocket.
Who I think they look a great team. Like, do you know what I mean?
Talking offensively, though, I mean, Slade. I was talking to you about this earlier. He's admitted one mistake, obviously, and I don't want to bring it back to our favourite whipping boy, but that was Ravel, because. For me, when Kenwyne went limping off there,
it was like, oh,
yeah,
the crowd.
Yeah, you thought you just assumed it was going to be Ravel,
yeah.
But in fact, he went with Amiobi. For me, that suggests. I know. Again, apparently Amiobi missed a week of pre-seasons, was a bit off the whatever. But for me, that is admitting the mistake that he should have started Amiobi and Doyle, Amiobi and Mason. Sorry,
Doyle. Forget that.
There's a question about Doyle here, actually.
Crikey.
Where is Owen Doyle? Is the sort of is the thrust of it? I would like to ask.
Sitting somewhere being unhappy.
I hope he doesn't go the same way as some of the.
What do we think of Mason? What do you think of Mason? We haven't really spoken about him. I mean, that's just an intro. I mean, when I spoke to Russell,
John led.
Oh, sorry. You know, so we're on a discussion show, and you're not allowed to ask a question. Okay. Nath.
Yeah. Well, you better ask John.
John, go ahead.
Captain.
If I go to the bathroom, excuse me.
What do you think of Mason?
No, I mean, no, because the point I bring him up really is because when I spoke to, again, I don't want to come back to my Dutch trip or what bits I can remember of it, obviously in Amsterdam, etc. But I mean, you know, he was, Slade was immediate. Even then, in there was just like, he's my, you know, he's impressed. He's my. So he's been Joe Mason. He's my number one striker.
Listen. Let me just point something out to you, right? I wouldn't really focus too much on Slade saying them things, right? Because they have to change. Yeah, I know. But remember what he said about Makeda. Exactly the same thing. He's unbelievable. He's this, he's that.
When he first arrived. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, don't worry too much. When he focuses on a player, maybe he's just like gets transfixed on him for a while. Don't take too much notice.
How can I not be? I got to be a little fixated. He's the only striker who started every game. Well, okay, he didn't start the Cardigan. He started every league game.
You haven't been overly impressed with Joe Mason.
Well,
his
charms are a little obscured to me sometimes. I think we said it on the last one. I think then somebody tweeted out Tucker. Joe Mason is weedy or something. You know, it didn't help me, but no. I mean, I got my thoughts on him. I'm still not. I don't think. I don't think you've really spoken about him that much, have you?
About
really?
Joe?
Yeah.
I love Joe.
Yeah.
I like him but I think Saturday, I think you've seen the best of. Not for 45 minutes, but for 10, 15, 20 minutes throughout the second half in different spells. I think you've seen what Cardiff are capable of. There was a move where a couple of times it was played up to Kenwyn, bang, straight back down. Who was there? Joe. Joe would then have a little pass, boom, move. And I said, you want him in and amongst those players, you know, because he's an intelligent footballer. You don't want him, Kenwyn flicking it on. Okay, he will go for the flick on, but 9 times out of 10, he's going to get beaten for pace, and he's not the strongest of players, so he's going to be easily muscled off the ball. Whereas when he's in and amongst all the bodies and people are looking the wrong way, and he's got the intelligence to little passes. I think there was one up to Kenwyn and he's just flicked around the corner and Joe's run from a deeper position past him. You know, that's like that third man running. You know, it's those things, and it's those sorts of moves where I was hoping in the first game after pre-season you'd start the show, but you know, they started the show on Saturday, which is promising. But
from what you're suggesting, Kenwyn has a big influence, you know.
They do. That's striker
of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I played with Super John McGinley at Bolton. Now, we didn't know we were going to play together prior to the start of the season, but when we did, we just gained an understanding of each other's game within probably 3 games. Right, we hadn't trained together as a 2 because we weren't going to be starting as a 2. Up to the last pre-season game, Colin Todd didn't know what the 2 strikers were going to be. We then started against Wolves, won 3-0, the rest is history. But we formed an understanding that, and we became like room partners and everything. So you just know your mate inside out.
So I mean, obviously then that's showing that Mason, Kenwyn Jones.
Well, Russell's already said about partnerships, hasn't he? So he understands the magnitude and the importance of having partnerships between fullback and winger, or strikers, or centre backs. Do you know what I mean? Or centre midfielders. So build them. Let them develop.
I mean, it's just interesting because that chap there mentioned where's Owen Doyle, and I mean, of course, you know, I mean, he came with albeit in League One, 20 odd goals in whatever you know, he was top score. Did he finish top scorer in League One or whatever? Even though we're halfway through the season, he's obviously at that kind of level, prolific. I just wondered, you know, maybe where that guy's asked where he is, probably a little bit hacked off somewhere, would you say? Thinking, well, hang on, you know, I was the big cheese at Chesterfield, I'm here, I'm not getting a look in, but you know.
Let's have a couple of these comments, not to bring it back to Slade, but we've got a few on Slade, one of which is having a go at you two, so we'll definitely come to that one. Let's go to the other one first from...
at least it's both of us now.
Connor says, I can't realistically see Slade getting Cardiff up to the Premiership. He needs to get the squad settled and get rid of all the fringe players that are hanging around. The signings he's made as manager have been shocking, the likes of O'Keefe and Ravel. He's got a good enough matchday squad to compete with any championship team if he plays the players to the best of their ability and not out of form.
Didn't somebody say one Slade signing started against Wolves?
Possibly, yeah.
I can't remember who it is. Would we cash Amiobi? Oh, no, he didn't start. Who's the one? There is just one Slade. Marsh.
Pilkington.
Was it Peltier or Malone?
Peltier.
So that's, I don't know. Not trying to be like, if they are watching, we're not trying to say like, you know, let's give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the credit for that incredible win. You know,
maybe they are, and maybe they're watching with Bob from Cwmbran, who says, why shouldn't, and bear with me, it's a lengthy one, why shouldn't Slade have his say? This is going back to what we were talking about earlier on. It seems the squad are saying the atmosphere is better. It seems they're playing for him. The start has been good to the season. The manager is in the firing line from all angles. Give him some credit for sorting things out. We're in a much better place this season than we were last. He then goes on to say, in a separate comment, isn't it a positive that we are now debating options in most positions within the squad?
Definitely.
We all have views on selection, and only 11 can start. With danger men coming off the bench. Blakey, what's your experience of management, if any, he says, with a question mark. We can all be fantasy football managers, but if it goes wrong, we don't get sacked. Slade has played a blinder praising Revella, fooling you all, including Kenny Jackett, and leaving him on the bench. That's what being a manager in the real world is all about, says Bob.
And you think
I think he's giving him too much credit
Bob,
there.
I think you need to lie down. And I think I'd have a lot more experience of a football manager than yourself, Bob. Yeah,
so good old Bob.
If
like Bob,
when you play for managers such as Dave Bassett, Harry Redknapp,
Dave Jones, hang on,
who else can we say? Graham Souness, Colin Todd. These men have had vast experience. They pass that experience down to you as a player. That's the whole idea of having a good manager, a good coach. So, no, it's not fantasy manager. I don't play those games, sorry. I don't have a PlayStation. So, Bob, I agreed with a lot of what you said, but, you know, on that point where you're saying to me, basically, I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not a manager. Then I have to take issue.
Can we get Bob down to the studio for an arm wrestle?
I have to take.
That'll be good.
I have to take issue with you, Bob. Sorry, because you know that is the whole point why I'm able to analyse a game, is because I have got the experience of playing in there and being in there, you know, at the top level, from the bottom level to the top level. Yeah, so. That's why I'm able to give my opinion, and it is an opinion. You don't have to agree with it, just like I just don't agree with that sentence where you've like had a go at me as like a fantasy manager.
I tell you what, I'm glad Bob didn't question my credentials for being here talking about it or whatever.
Sadly, what he said about you isn't publishable.
Why is there always a sting in the tail? I was thinking at last. I was thinking at last. Blakey's getting slagged off. This is great. I mean, what shall I have for lunch later?
And it's not. No, I don't think Bob is slagging off. Bob is just giving his opinion.
No,
and this is why we love it, because Bob comes in with an opinion, which I agree with largely. One part of it I don't agree with.
I think he's giving Slade a bit too much credit for his mind games.
I think way too much credit.
I don't think he's that
at the end of the day, yeah. I think if that was the case, then, you know, I think Russell Slade, if he was playing those sort of moves, would have been at the higher level way before now.
It's like Arsene Wenger level.
Okay, yeah, Bob just saying I was asking about your own experience of direct management. That was all, Blakey.
I'm not a direct manager.
Bob, please don't rise to it. Don't rise to him. Don't rise. Yeah. He's all right. He's all right.
And Bob, just look at my cut on my forehead.
Oh no, I thought we can't mention.
That was a tux yesterday.
How did you do it, really?
Tux, man. Yeah, that's what he done. Give me a karate chop on that again.
You karate chopped me the other day.
Remember Hong Kong Fui?
Oh, #1 super guy. Dolly, you're too
the
young,
Hong Kong Fui.
Everyone out there remember Hong Kong Fui.
Yeah, some sort of DIY accident, wasn't it?
Oh, do you have to expose it?
Yeah, well, you brought it up, by the way.
Off camera.
There's not off. There's nothing off camera. I hope you don't think we occasionally go off camera.
I was doing a bit of DIY, and they're taking down some tiles and.
The doorbell went, he opened it, it was Russell Slade with a sledgehammer.
And I tell you, I so wanted to cry, but, you know, I held it together.
There's nothing wrong with a grown man crying.
No, indeed. You would have thought he'd be able to afford to pay somebody to do that sort of thing, wouldn't you?
Why do people always say that? Don't you enjoy, like, oh no, you go on your birthday, on your 50th birthday, you go out for, what did you do for your birthday, John? I went out with my mum and dad. Okay.
Hang on, he's 50th, it's a long way off.
Okay, so what did you do with the boys? I ain't got no friends.
It's not really.
That's not true, is it? But I
really
mean,
true,
no, but Blakey's an eccentric millionaire. Likes to do all his own.
I love DIY. Don't you like DIYing?
Oh, I can't
No, I
stand
can't
it.
do it.
Can't put a
Can't
plug
do
on.
it.
Okay. Well, I enjoy it. Garden, everything. I love it.
He's always out on his tractor when I call him.
Right.
He's always out. He's always out on surveying his land. One day, son, all this will be yours.
Daniel, then, picking up on a story
Daniel,
we did
son.
this morning. Cardiff saying basically that they're aiming to sign 3 new players by the end of the week. Transfer window is on
now.
It's Tuesday, huh?
Tuesday, yeah,
week
first.
September the 1st. Aiming to sign 3 players. One of them could be relatively soon, we think, possibly. He says Cardiff are close to signing 3 players. Do you think it could be Ledley, Fraser Campbell and Lescott? I imagine no to
And then I awoke from my slumber. Well, Ledley's just linked all the time. I don't know what that is all about. No.
They're talking a defender, midfielder and striker. They're looking to...
I think we're both agreed on I think the whole world is agreed on this midfielder, aren't we? Of some shape or form. This elusive holy grail, a leader, a driving.
How do we think Digachoy's doing now? He's had a good few
I think
games
he's
now.
looking much better. Yeah, it's true. I think he's. I think. I said in the thing. They said, you know, Russell Slade said in the summer, if he gets fit, it'll be like having a new player. I know everyone always says that, but it is looking a bit like that. He's just got that bit about. He's a little bit Shea Olafinana-ish.
That's what I knew
Remember
you were
him?
gonna say that.
Shea
You liked him, didn't
Olafinana.
you?
I liked him. I think he's better than Digachoy personally, but I like those kind of players, and I think Digachoy is starting to get into that mould, to get into the groove, as us youngsters say.
If you could have one signing before the window slams shut,
Messi.
who or what position maybe would it be? What's your number 1 priority?
For me, it's that midfielder, by the way, if you want my opinion. But there you go.
Midfielder. Central midfielder. Who would it be?
This being based on the fact that they keep Kenwyne Jones. I suppose if Kenwyne were to go, you perhaps want a striker.
Yeah. I still think they need a striker.
Definitely,
as well.
yeah. And I think they're looking at a sort of what do we say? You know, when we were saying maybe this is one of the most imminent ones, an adaptable defender. You know, who can play at full back.
Well, they've had this Tamas on loan, haven't they? Gabriel Tamas.
They were very dismissive of him, but
Romanian international, 65 appearances for his country. Formerly
and
West
he
Brom,
can
I think,
play
is
at
where he
centre
played.
half.
That's what I was going to say. Thomas from West Brom, isn't he?
West Brom, and then he was at Watford last year. I think he had a pretty serious injury last year. Hasn't really played much the last year or so.
Okay.
He's a centre back who can play across the back 4. Is that right?
Yeah, apparently so.
I'm sure he was there with Di Matteo and Newton. I'm sure he was. Yeah.
Possibly
a good
about
player.
Right, yeah, it was a few years ago. Yeah,
good player.
31 now. I think,
Yeah,
so.
32.
In fact, I know he was. Yeah, he was a good player, intelligent. I'm sure. Was he Romanian captain or something like that?
He may have been at some. So he's actually
Yeah.
been dropped.
Well, he
from
did
the,
60 odd caps. So
Yeah, he got chucked out for some sort of off the field controversy.
Okay.
In Romania,
Yeah.
he must have been really controversial to prove controversial in
I
Romania.
think
Don't
there's
you
some
think so?
video footage of him banging down a hotel door late at night.
Hey, we've all done that, haven't we?
As you do.
Travel Lodge.
There we go. Anyway, before the Forest game on the weekend, there's obviously another game, League Cup action.
Yeah.
MK Dons will expect lots of changes, and the news again this morning. Bruno Manga expected to
Yes.
be back.
Good.
Makeda as well expected to be back, but maybe Manga is the issue. Connolly and Morrison have done pretty well there at centre back. Is it a case of when Manga comes back, he has to go straight into the team? He's that good. Does this mean that Matt Connolly is about to get deja vu and disappear off the radar once again, or what do you think he'll do? What should he do? What would you do?
Yeah, funny enough, I asked him this yesterday and he bit my head off.
I said I would probably go to a back 3. Now the problem they probably would have they probably haven't been able to work with a back 3 if certain players are injured and what have you. So, you know.
But if they stick with a back 4, should Manga go back in?
If they stick
and
with
who
a
do you
back
drop?
4,
Or do you keep them? Have the 2 lads done enough to keep their places and Manga on the bench?
Whoa.
Which it may be for a week or so while he gets back to fitness, but when he is fully
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not saying in Forest you're going to rip up
Yeah.
the textbook.
I would play probably Manga, and Morrison's gonna hate me for it, but I'd put Connolly and Manga together, because I just think Connolly,
can play a bit. Can he?
well, there's no fluke getting 3, 4, 5 promotions. It's not like, he's just in the right place, right time. Clearly,
Although a couple of times he was in the right place at the right
Yeah, but
time. The last
clearly-
month at Watford, for example.
he clearly has, got the experience of winning.
I hope they don't drop Connolly. Have a
promotion.
nervous breakdown, I think.
But I think if I had to go with someone to be left out, then I would probably leave Morrison out.
Would you go along with that?
I would agree with that. I think so. I think, I go with Manga.
I
I
like
think when
Morrison
Manga's
'cause he
fit,
gives
you
you
put him
goals
in,
as
don't
well.
you? You don't go. I can't envisage going on for months with Manga
No.
in the subs. You can't picture it in your head. You just think, well, that's impossible.
Well, it could happen.
Well, I suppose it could, but you're going to put him in. And for me, because I think he would complement Manga as well, because Manga's got that little bit more kind of bite about him, and Connolly's a little bit more considered, and he's a really intelligent, good reader game, not the biggest bloke. I think it sounds like it could work. But part of me does say, until I know there's been mistakes, but for me, I think Connolly and Morrison right now, let's see how they get on at Forest. Do you know what I mean? If they, they keep a clean sheet there, then, or help keep a clean sheet then. Okay, Manga's fit. I don't think there's any necessity to go in messing around with it. If they come off the back of a Wolves clean sheet, they win 1-0 at Forest or something, and if it's not broke, don't fix it, kind of. I wouldn't. I don't have to go rushing in there.
Like Brian Clough said once, though, if you can make it better.
Right, okay.
If you can do it better.
There's that point. It's an interesting. Again, another lovely headache.
It is a headache for the
Whoever
manager.
said
That's
it
what I was trying to say to you yesterday.
Yeah.
It's such a difficult
Yeah.
one, because Morrison, he seems to, if he makes a mistake, it seems to lead to a goal. I feel sorry for him in that sense. But he will get you 5, 6, 7 goals a season as well. Do you know what I mean? He is that good in the opposition's box. And he's a
skipper as well.
He's a solid defender. He just seems to make the odd, remember David James? He'd make a mistake and it would always result in a goal. But he's a fantastic keeper.
But he was a goalkeeper though, so if he made a mistake,
Yeah, but it don't always result in a goal. Do you know what I mean? You can kick it out to someone.
it's more likely one of his mistakes is going to be.
Do you know what I mean?
Blue Jays agree I dropped Morrison. 3 of the 4 goals conceded so far this season have been because he lost his marker in the box.
All right, okay. I got trounced.
He done that against QPR, didn't he? And then he went up and scored.
Well, people
10
blaming him
minutes
at
later.
Blackburn as well, weren't there? So more than likely. So yeah. Well, another good question, Joe. And I mean, and as I say, don't think it's one to trouble us for Forest, because I don't know if Manga gets an hour tomorrow and comes through that, then I don't think he'd be considered ready anyway then to go straight into
Maybe the
Forest.
week after.
Yeah. So it's not an immediate concern. So
I suppose this game coming up against NK is perfect timing for someone like Manga to go in and get 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Makeda, the forgotten,
Makeda, yeah.
man, will
where on earth is his route back to?
I don't know.
I mean, it's just littered with obstacles in front of him at this
expect to see
point.
Doyle play tomorrow night, maybe, I assume, to start. Maybe.
Well, if Makeda
would
comes
expect
back
so.
in, you can't have, well, you can, but you can't have Makeda, Doyle, and Ravel on the bench. You're going to have 2 of those 3, I would have thought.
Well, we'll see what he does. Lots of that's with Noon you'd expect
Although
to
if-
feature.
Expect Noon to
No,
start.
I mean,
wouldn't
like
you?
from a going forward in future, the headache is brewing in it. It's coming. You got Makeda coming back. You got Doyle sat there, who was brought in by the manager last year. You've got Kenwyn, who's now in, or is he? You know what I mean? So you that's what I say. You've got the players.
Yeah, but one name that came up earlier, I'd forgotten about, but Matty Kennedy, who was one of the best players last season.
Exactly,
when
yeah.
he came, wasn't he? And he seemed so far away from
He
being talked about in that start.
spoke to him in the summer, and I can guarantee
totally
he's
forgot
not
about
gonna,
him.
he's
Well,
not
yeah.
going to be happy at all, because
nowhere near, is
I mean,
he?
he left Everton, came here, and he really thought, you know, he was dropping down a level, and he thought he was going to be whatever, and he's not even making the bench. And I spoke to him in the summer, and he was like, you know, if I can't, you know, so but you know what it's like anyway. You can't please everyone.
The problem with
he looks good.
The problem with young lads is he might have to drop down again to play regular. That's the problem. You know, I know he's thinking I've dropped down from Everton, but he wasn't dropping down from Everton's first team.
No, yeah.
Like Amiobi has dropped down from Newcastle's first team. He wasn't dropping down from their first team in. So the young lads today, they have to get the experience, they have to get the games under their belt. You know, when they've got that, then you're in a stronger position to ask the question.
Yep.
You can always ask the question, but you're in a stronger position to ask the question, why am I on the bench, or why aren't I in the starting 11? But right now, you know, if he's outside it, you know, either work yourself really hard on training to get back into it, because that's the only way you get back involved, I tell you, is the training. And if that's not going to be the case, then you might have to, you know, drop out on loan or something and play, you know, League One or a lower championship team for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. But the game comes with knockbacks. It's not, you're not always going forward in football. I think this is something that, to all the young kids out there who listen, you know, you've got to be able to take, you know, the knockback. You've got to be able to take, you know, you're going to be not starting or not on the bench or not involved. Yeah. And then it's how you react to that. It's how you come back. It's how you fight your way back into the team, into the squad, into the manager's plans. It's as simple as that.
Okay, food for thought. Let's sign off with a hug and a kiss. This from our friend Bob in Cumbrian, who says, "Great show, guys."
Cheers, Bobbert.
I seem to have got a rise out of Blakey.
He did, Bob. He did.
That is the biggest.
Though it wasn't meant as a slight, Nathan. So
that's all right, Bob. You can slide
Bob,
if you want.
It was great. Don't apologise. I was loving
just
it.
raised one other issue which we'll finish on. Seeing as Bob says something else that'll perhaps wind him up. Missing fans. It can't be about the colour. After all, we had 20,000 plus in the Championship under Mackay. And also in the Premiership playing in red. Thankfully we're back in blue, so what is the reason now for fans staying away? They'll be back if we continue to get results, I suppose. Fans like to see a winning team.
The poor football at the end of last season for me.
I think
so many people didn't renew because I mean I don't know how many people I bumped into. I agree with Bob that crikey, if they keep winning some games, obviously the crowds will get bigger. I mean, everything. But I think I've spoken to so many people in the summer like, renew that and go down and watch that rubbish. I'm not going down there until.
I think it's
for me
more
that's
to
a big
it
factor.
Than that. I think.
Well, I think it's a factor.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor, of course. Yeah, but I think it's a collective over the course of. I don't think you're just playing one thing. I think you can go back probably to the Margie Mackay era, and you could probably. Take it,
but are there still people who are saying I'm not going down till Tan goes? I suppose as a result of the rebrand.
So
I assume there are. I just wonder what kind of numbers there are.
There was a significant number of people who were just lost in that whole process, and they just haven't.
They've got it, like I say.
They may not still have strong thoughts towards Tan or anything like that, but they
got fed up.
Lost.
Yeah. I mean, remember at the end of last season, we were like. Depleted. We were like, man.
We're never depleted.
It's been such a long season, and there's been so much turmoil, up and down, up and down. And like I say, you just want that flat line. You're going to get the odd blip here and there, but you just want a consistency. And I say the football fan is the hardest person to get rid of, really, because you think some of the diehards at Cardiff, what they've seen in the last 30 years. All sorts, ups, downs, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Success, failure, what have you. But they keep coming back, and those diehards have grown, because when I was here, the diehards were probably 2,500, 3,000. By the time I left, there was probably 5,000. So over the years, they've grown and grown. I think over the last 2 or 3 years, even though we've had success, that says it all, doesn't it? You've had success in a promotion, winning, and you know people have got fed up. And once you leave as well, and you go off and do something with your kids, something else on a Saturday, and you enjoy it, and you think to yourself, I'm not going back. I know people who've not renewed over things like car parking and stuff like that. It's little tiny issues, like, you know what I mean?
Well, like we got to say, if they start winning games,
Exactly, yeah.
people will come back. And, you know, I don't know if we're going to end in a minute, but to end it, you know, we're coming off the back of what everyone's saying is maybe their best performance in under Slade or for a very long time. Or
It was
you
a
know,
good performance Saturday.
So,
it was
you know,
a real solid, it was a bit of je ne sais quoi in there as well. It's a bit of style.
Pardon my French.
You know?
And we spent most of the hour arguing about Manga, Connolly, you know,
Great headache
Fabio,
problems, yeah.
Fabio so-and-so,
Positive
Ravel, Kenwyn Jones. Oh, we haven't been arguing about that one so much, but you know what I mean. You know, Owen Doyle, Joe Mason. So that bodes well as well, obviously.
All right, chaps. I think
So 5-0 to Nottingham Forest.
Oh yeah, we.
That's it. Got to have that edge. You got to end it with an edge. You got to have an edge on it. No.
Do you want to do a prediction?
1-0 Cardiff.
Okay.
Oh, was my prediction right last week? I think it was, wasn't it?
What was it? What did you say? 2-0 Cardiff.
Oh.
I think I went for a 2-2 draw. And with
No,
10 minutes
it was-
left, I thought,
No, it was
I'm
Black-
on
it
here.
was
Here we
Blackburn,
go.
wasn't it?
What did you say?
1-1.
I got
Because you took
QPR
2-1.
right. Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I got QPR right. Hey, let's not worry about
It was
who
a
got things
forced.
right.
It was a forced. It was
It's
a
just-
forced. Mine was a forced change. So
Right, okay. So
I'll take it,
what
though.
are you going for Forest?
it's like that goal that
Dear
just
boy.
brushes off your cheek and no one
Did
sees
you
it.
score
You
many
still
with your
claim it.
cheek?
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine. Hey, this is an afternoon
Hey,
show.
yeah,
Wow,
it's not 9
wow.
o'clock,
It's
9
the
o'clock.
watershed.
Not the 9 o'clock news.
Pre-watershed.
Yeah.
We still haven't got a prediction, have we? Did you-
Prediction pain.
What's your prediction for the Forest game?
For the
City
Forest
ground. It's a
game?
City ground, is it? Yeah.
I think we'll do Forest. I don't think Forest are in great shape. I really don't. I look at how they started under Freeman and gradually, you know, started to tail off. They started brilliantly, didn't they? Didn't lose for like 10 games or something like that. Then tailed off, and they haven't started well. I think, you know, I think we'll do Forest. So I'm going to go 2-0 because I don't think we've been
nice.
conceding, and we've been quite solid.
Well, it should be a very
And
positive
Marshall's
show
back.
next week then.
Who's back?
Marshall's back in goal.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So that's I'd say more.
So that's
or anything like that, but
How much more positive do people out there want it than this? We're like predicting them to win.
I know. Let's finish it quick before
It's
somebody
good,
says
isn't it? Before
negative.
something bad happens.
There we go. Bob finishes by saying, "I'll buy you a pint next time I see you, Blakey."
Oh, Blakey.
Wait.
Cheers, Bob.
Blakey. Cheers, Bobbert.
Hey, I'm going to have a rant to Bob. Hey, Bob, you come around here offering beer to him. Oh, yeah. Bob's the star of the show now,
Bob's
isn't
been
he?
brilliant.
Bob's boot.
Because I agreed with everything Bob said.
Yeah.
You didn't like. Oh, hang on. All right, let's listen.
Anyway, right.
Yeah,
good
cool.
stuff. Enjoyed that.
He didn't get a prediction.
Yeah, he did. He said.
Yes, I did. I said 1-0 to Cardiff.
Oh,
You were
okay.
so busy wrapped up in saying, did I get it right last week? You forgot.
We didn't listen. Okay, right, thanks, chaps. We'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your comments, questions, arguments, all the rest of it. All very enjoyable.
Thank you, Bob.
We'll be blogging live as always from the League Cup game on Tuesday night, and of course on the weekend, Saturday afternoon. And we will see you
Hello?
next week.
Yeah, John will be home now.